About half a year ago, I posted a preview for course 1 of my new major project. I thought it was really good at the time and I was very proud of it. But what if I told you? This is all trash now. I can do way better. When I first started this mod, my levels looked like this. But now, after a full year of learning and progressing, we have levels that look like this. And I couldn't be happier. I tested this level on N64, it runs 30 FPS. N64 games back in the day perfectly could have looked like this. And who knows, maybe I'll learn even more and the levels will look even better in the future. We've improved the frame rate, the real N64 performance, the gameplay, the camera, the visuals, the sound design, you name it. It's all way better now. Let's take a look at this comparison shot for an example. You can see that the vertex colors add a lot of depth to it. There is a much nicer color composition going on and the textures have way higher resolution. Remaking this has taught me all those things and I'm very glad I took the time to actually redo the thing. So the first big difference you will perceive is the grass. It is a much nicer texture. Plus there are a lot of vertex colors added to give the whole thing more depth. It doesn't look as flat anymore. The second big difference you should notice is that the game now runs in 60 FPS. Yes, really. Even on N64, it often hits above 30 FPS, which feels very smooth. And of course, the skybox has nicer colors, and it is a 3D skybox now, no longer a 2D background. Why and how that improves performance, I will explain in the next chapter, so be sure to keep watching. And lastly, if you listen closely to this grass, the sand, or even the wood, you can tell I added custom sound effects for the sound design. The tactile feedback from the sound that the surfaces make, it just makes everything feel a little better. And obviously, the soundtrack is entirely new. This song here is a custom song made by my friend Badoop. He composes the whole soundtrack for his game, which means that every stage will have a custom song of this type of quality. I get if you prefer the old song from the demo, but honestly, the demo used a stolen song from a DuckTales game, and I always prefer a custom song over a copied one. I've already talked about graph render optimizations in one of my previous videos. Going into excruciating detail again in this video would be a bit too much. However, you are very warmly invited to also watch that video. On top of the changes in that video, we've also added multi-threading to the game. This technically makes the visual FPS lower, but it ensures that the game's physics always run at 30 FPS, which makes it control very smoothly. Having an inconsistent frame rate during playing would really throw you off. On top of that, there's an interpolation algorithm going on, so that at any given frame rate, the visuals are still going to be output smoothly. Without this interpolation algorithm, the video would look very stuttery as soon as the FPS slightly fluctuate. Alright, for the next explanation, I'll have to bust out MS Paint. This is getting deep. Say we wanted to draw this scene, with a nice blue sky, some nice green grass and a little house here. So what you would usually do, you would draw a green line here. And this is the grass, and this is the sky. And now we've already colored in every pixel on the screen once. However, coloring in the pixel is very expensive. So if now on top of that we draw our little house here, it means that all the pixels of the house we've colored in twice, which actually takes up a lot of processing power. Now if we wanted to do better, we could first draw the house, and then behind the house we color in the grass like this. And now that we've done this, we've only had to draw every pixel once. This saves a lot of processing power, and that is what I've done all over the level to make the whole thing render a bit faster. This exact same principle is also why the 3D skybox is so much better. As you can see, the skybox may be 32 triangles, as opposed to the 0 triangles that a normal skybox would be. However, because we strategically cut off these triangles in a way that they only ever fill out the screen space that is not being filled out by the level, we can make sure that the game doesn't need to draw additional pixels. This saves around 1.5 milliseconds every single frame that we render. Considering we only have 33.3 milliseconds to render a frame, this is a gigantic performance improvement. I have also optimized some Mario 64 geo layouts to be more performant, and I also have a different video where I've gone in detail about why exactly this needed to happen. Here's a short excerpt. And obviously I reduced the bones from 9 to 3, because that's all you need. The 9 bones, they don't add anything. 6 of these 9 bones are not even animated. For all these cool tricks, the best areas went from 30 FPS up to 50 FPS. If you compare it to the 30 FPS of the original game, that is pretty crazy. The worst areas went from 18 FPS to 30 FPS, which is a perfectly playable experience, and that is the same frame count that the original game was. I'm very proud of this. The camera has underwent significant changes during all of this. It is a bit hard to explain exactly how the camera width was changed, but all of this works to make sure that you can always hold your vision on Mario. On top of that, some of the level geometry has been adjusted. For example, in previously tight places like these here, I had to edit the level geometry in a way that the camera would adjust to it. Plus, if you're wall kicking between two walls like this, I had to program the camera to automatically get you a good angle on Mario. Little camera tricks like that are especially useful in slide areas like these, because it is very easy to tell which camera angle the player will want. I had to look over the entire camera code. I had to cut out a lot of bad mathematical functions that didn't actually do exactly what Nintendo intended them to do. Fixing these minor mathematical errors in the camera function removes some bugs they would usually encounter with the camera. It improves the feeling of the camera by a bit, because now actually everything works the way it is intended and it works consistently. There are many minor gameplay changes, like the collision on these leaf pedals being a bit bigger to make it easier to platform, or things like there being an additional function to control your Y velocity while you're in the twirl animation. But there is also a major difference in the fact that all the collision physics and all the Mario physics have been overhauled to be more mathematically consistent. This makes it easier to predict how Mario is going to interact with certain surfaces, and it makes the game as a whole a lot more stable than the original Mario 64 was. Unfortunately, that means its side effect is that it fixes a few bugs, which I did not intend. I still want speedrunners and casual players to use all the cool Mario 64 glitches we love. Unfortunately, some of them have been fixed as a result of me making the game perform better and play more consistent. Going over these changes in detail would be way too time consuming right now, and I believe they warrant a whole video for themselves. The entire engine of Mario 64 has been changed so much that it is difficult to still call this a ROM hack, honestly. I hope you enjoyed me ramble on about all these changes I made. I'm very passionate about this, I hope you can tell. And I want to give a big shout out to all my patrons. Without their support, I wouldn't be able to invest all this time into actually making sure the game plays and runs perfectly fine on N64. The fact that I am able to get by with this hobby is honestly just amazing to me, and I hope I can do so for a much longer time. At least long enough that I can finish this mod here without dying. I hope you enjoyed it, and goodbye until the next video.